everybody. Welcome to another episode of Union or Bust, hottest labor podcast. Who do we have here, Chris?
Yes, we are the hottest podcast, and we might be the hottest podcast in Southern California. Well, my name's Chris Lopez. I am your union brother on TikTok, Instagram, all the platforms. And you know, Juan, I think we won. We got NinaTurner on here.
Yeah.
So I think we can retire.
Not yet. Not yet.
So anyway, Nina, thank you for coming on the Union or Bust podcast. And, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Well, it's a pleasure, Chris, to be with you and Juan. I think you both are just fly. You got it like that. So it's good to be here with you. A great topic. And, I'm a Cleveland girl, born and raised, a Midwestern girl in the land, as we call ourselves, oldest of 7 children. I have a son. I actually have 2 grandchildren, believe it or not. I get mistaken for their parent, for their mother all the time because, I'm just, fly. I'm fly too. Hell, we all could be fly. But in my, as far as my life, just grew up in a very working class family. Definitely know what it means to struggle. Certainly, I have a family history within the labor union itself, from my grandparents to uncles, to my son, to myself. So I get why unions are important. I used to be a college professor at a community college right here in Greater Cleveland, Cuyahoga Community College. That was one of the greatest joys of my life, to be able to pour back in to the young people and the seasoned people. As we know, community colleges educate all. So that was exciting for me. I call myself a recovering politician. And I say that because I'm not actively elected right now. The last office I held was an Ohio State senator, and doing that work was really, it was tremendous opportunity for me to be able to serve my constituency and serve the great state of Ohio. Before that, I served as a Cleveland City Councilwoman. I worked for the Cleveland School District. I mean, I have been blessed to have a plethora of public offices where I have served, and I understand very clearly how important it is to have elected officials and even bureaucrats too, mind you, because we forget to talk about the bureaucrats. But we need people who work for government, no matter what level it is, to actually give a damn about the people that they serve. And I believe that is missing in politics today. I was blessed in 2016 to be a national surrogate for Senator Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign. And in 2020, one of 4 magnificent national co-chairs for that campaign. One of the greatest duties of my life was to serve on both of those campaigns and really push a progressive agenda and give people in this country something to believe that we could attain, whether it was college for all or Medicare for all, which is the major thing that attracted me to Senator Sanders, because my mom died at 42 years old. She was underinsured. That's a very young age to die, and it was unexpected. And so when he talked about Medicare for all, it really touched me and made me think about her. And being a first generation college graduate, certainly the college for all. So those were the 2 major things that attracted me to Senator Sanders. And I often say that he was the spark, but we are the fire. And labor, to me, the labor environment is the next best, greatest place to really bring people from all walks of life together so that we can fight for what we have in common. And that is, if you don't have a sugar daddy or sugar mama, you are part of the working class. Some of us may be in the 6-figure portion of the working class, others may not be. But ultimately, if you work for a living, we should all be together, no matter how we identify, and also no matter what economic strata we are in, we should be together.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. What a past. What a history. So yeah, you mentioned Bernie Sanders 2016, 2020. I didn't do anything in politics up until 2016. 2016 is where I got involved. My friend, my really close friend, we grew up together since elementary school. When the elections were going on here in San Diego, she told me, hey, maybe you should run for delegate for Bernie. And I didn't know what that was. I had no idea anything. But I knew who Bernie was. And then I went to the caucus where we do our little spiels and try to get voted in as a delegate. And I went. And this is my first anything before I got into labor. I did my little spiel. I made people laugh. I made people go I made people clap, and then I got the highest votes for the men. And I was like, "What the hell? This is crazy." It kind of felt good. Now I know how politicians feel when they win. So I was like, "What the hell?" Yeah. So then I went to Philadelphia for Bernie in 2016, and then that was my first experience, and I saw the whole how it played out basically. But that was my first taste. So
Yeah.
at the same time, I got really involved and I was passionate about changing the world. And then I saw what happened in Philadelphia, and I was like, "Wait, it's all corrupt. It's all fucked up. We can cuss here. It's all corrupt." And
Oh, don't tell me that. No, I can
and
curse.
no, you can do
I
whatever you want.
cuss.
We're not a C3 yet, so we can do whatever we want. we're working on it, but yeah. So Bernie or Bust was like the thing, and then
Yep.
that's where we got the name from, the Union or Bust. I got it from the Bernie or Bust
Oh,
movement.
okay. Awesome.
So to me, I do believe that with labor and unionized labor is how we're gonna fight back corporate greed and educate the population and really have power. You see what's going on across the country with UAW, the Teamsters, the flight attendants are about to go on
Absolutely.
strike. And
Yeah.
like, I've been following you since then, but I feel that now I see a lot of labor talk from your side of the world as well. And so, do you think that that's where it's at? Do you think that maybe we could save this democracy that we have through labor?
I really do. I mean, it was either 2022 or 2023 where labor activity increased by 280%. I absolutely believe that that is the space. It's not a perfect space, but what is so attractive about the union space and my motivation for creating my organization, We Are Somebody, is that you do get people from all walks of life, all political spectrums, all ideology, who come together based on what they have in common. And to me, it is in that space, as workers fight for better work conditions, better wages, better benefits, that we also can get workers to care about other issues. By way of example, the whole ceasefire and having millions. I mean, when you add up the collective response from the House of Labor calling for a permanent ceasefire, it's over 9 million people. See, that's an example of it's an indirect impact on the workspace. But to have the House of Labor come out so strongly for ceasefire, because the workers understand, if workers overseas, Gaza, or wherever people may be catching hell, we catching hell over here too. What happens over there happens over here. And to be able to have people to care beyond their workspace is indeed a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. And so for me, We Are Somebody is a capacity building organization for working class people, both unionized and non-unionized workers too, because that is important. Most Americans are not in a union. We want them to be, but they're not. And so I care just as much about my neighbor who may not be in a union being able to take care of their family as I do for my neighbor who is in a union. We should come together because we are working class people, period. So yes, the labor movement is the way to do it. And there is a historic connection between labor movement and the civil rights movement. Again, not perfect, because Juan, as you started talking about the union that you're affiliated with and some of the history there, historically, labor unions have not been a bastion of hope when it comes to racial justice issue. I mean, they excluded, African Americans, they had anti-blackness, women, I mean, you name it, people were excluded, but especially African Americans were excluded from certain jobs, as we know, in this country. Unions are a microcosm or a reflection of a larger society. So just as a larger society, we fight for equality for marginalized people. We must remember that labor unions had to atone for a lot of things that they have done. And in this very moment, it is the best place to bring all kinds of people together to change this world, to change our country, and I think ultimately to change the world, because we need to care about our working class sisters and brothers and family and friends from all over the world.
Amen. We always have this thing called solidarity, and
Yeah,
I
Chris.
think the labor movement I think one of the reasons is we stand in solidarity so much, and we stand in solidarity with people we don't know. We might
Yeah.
not know the people in Palestine, Gaza, or whatever, but we care about
That's
people we
right.
don't know. When, we march with the teachers or we march with the nurses, we might not know their kids, but we care about people. And labor is definitely just, I mean, I see this. I don't know, Nina. I don't know if you feel it. I know it's the first time I've talking to you, talk to you, but I feel it. I feel like it's like a train. The labor movement's a train, and it's going so fast all around the country. And really, just get on. And
Yeah.
3 words: eat the rich.
I don't know, it might cause indigestion, but yeah.
Speaking of solidarity, international solidarity, so we've had Sarah Nelson on, the international
Oh
president
yeah, love her.
of flight attendants. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
such a great episode, and we're actually going to fly her in July to do an in-person uh, shoot. But she talked about international solidarity, how we need it. She talked about how when the Verizon workers, CWA, went on strike here in the U.S., Verizon shipped jobs to the Philippines, to UnionBust essentially, and then the workers in the Philippines though didn't cross the pick line and didn't take those jobs. We don't
Yeah,
know them; they don't really know us personally, but they still didn't cross the picket line because they understood international solidarity. So Sarah Nelson talks about that, and that's part of the ceasefire that you mentioned earlier. I see that
absolutely.
UAW Sean Fain, he took one of the strongest stances on the ceasefire. I mean, he's one of the guys that led UAW on a historic strike, got 30% wage increases for all his members last year, and then he led the ceasefire with labor. All of labor is watching Sean Fain right now. We're all watching Sarah Nelson and Sean Fain. We're all their wins are our wins. So we're constantly just looking at what they're doing so that we can do the same thing here. I'm a union organizer, so I'm currently in a couple campaigns. We might go on strike next year with this one company. They're AV techs. They do all the audio, video, lighting in the hotels here in San Diego, but across the country too. It's called Encore. They're owned by Blackstone, and I'm sure you've heard
Oh
of that
yeah.
name. We got their first contract 2 years ago. It was like fighting Goliath. We were the second city to be organized to get a contract in the U.S. So now we're going up for renegotiations, but we think we're gonna end up going on strike because that's the only way to get a good win. All the other
Sure.
unions are going on strike, and my workers, they see what other unions are doing as well. They're like, oh man, they went on strike, so why don't we do that? So right now there has been more strikes across the U.S., more strikes in the past 4 years and in the past 50 years combined. And like you mentioned earlier, these past few years with the pandemic, it highlighted everything that was messed up with this economy, with how the corporations run the world, how they showed their ass, how they don't really care about the worker. And what we're trying to push here in California is cow care.
Yeah.
That's universal health care in California.
Yes.
Now, I know you mentioned Medicare for all. We're trying to push it here in California, and we're the bluest state in the whole nation, and we still can't pass it. They've been trying to pass this for a while. Gavin Newsom ran on it, and there's no peep out of him. So, what do you think is going on? Like, do you think we can make this happen? Do you think we're the only industrialized country that doesn't have any form of Medicare for all? Do you think we can get there in these next few years, or is it going to have to be state by state? Do you think California can be the leading the tip of the spear on this one?
I think it's both, and certainly California being the largest state could be the catalyst for the change and be the positive ripple effect that we need to happen all over the country. But ultimately, we need it to happen federally so that you don't have a hodgepodge of different benefits based on what state you live in. And you are correct, Juan. We are the only industrialized nation that does not have some type of universal health care. It is a stain and a blemish on our country. There is no excuse for it. And there have been generations before us, before we were born, fighting for universal health care in this country. So this is not our first time to the rodeo as a nation. When he was campaigning for that job, he got the endorsement of the National Nurses United. He got that endorsement because he said that he was for universal health care and that he was going to bring it to California. Well, guess what? He flat out lied. He hasn't done that. As a matter of fact, behind the scenes been fighting against it. You have a legislature in California that is totally controlled by Democrats. So what's the excuse? You can't blame Republicans. What you can blame is the fact that the owner donors are in total control in states like California and others. But these Democrats are controlled, the ones who are not following through on the wishes and the needs of the people. And in Governor Gavin Newsom's uh, in regards to him, he just flat out lied. He just walked back on a campaign promise. We should not be commodifying healthcare in the United States of America, but that's what we do. Whether people live or die should not be based on whether or not they get access to healthcare. A doctor's diagnosis and prognosis and what they tell what type of prescriptions you need, what type of tests you need should not be based on the approval of some insurance company where these folks do not know, like your doctor knows, what you need. You can't be rationing out healthcare. So it is a stain, it is a blemish. It will change because we have to keep pushing for it to change. So this is both an and. It states who can pass it should, because they're setting a strong foundation for the federal government to do it. And then hopefully we get a Congress and a president who has the intestinal fortitude to do it. It always boggles my mind how they can be very bipartisan on that congressional level, to make war, to send money over, to kill other people's babies, but they cannot come together in a bipartisan way to get universal health care. It is an absolute, it's a damn shame. It's a disgrace. And so big ups to United Nurses, the National Nurses United and other nurses who really have been on the front lines of calling for universal health care. And certainly there are doctors groups that are doing it too, but the nurses, as we know, are on the front line of patient care, and they've been sounding the alarm for a very long time.
I think it's 1 out of 4 people are living with medical debt. It's almost that there's these pressures. People are having trouble paying their rent. People are having trouble paying electric bills. The consumer debt is just skyrocketing. And there's all these, people can't afford to pay for healthcare. They just can't. They're trying to pay their rent. And if the nurses, and I was tripping out, I was like, well, the nurses are for it. Who would know better than the nurses?
That's exactly right. And 50%, Chris, to your point, 50% of Americans say that they cannot afford their rent. Homelessness has increased has gone up rather over the last 2 years. So there's a difference between what they say in the bubble and what's happening in the streets. President Biden will be giving his State of the Union on Thursday, I believe that's tomorrow, the 7th of March. And he's going to paint a rosy picture. He's going to give all kinds of pretty words. We don't need a whole lot of pretty words. We need some pretty actions. Mm-hmm. That is what we need. And a pretty action would be Medicare for all. A pretty action would be increasing the federal minimum wage. A pretty action would be doing away with the sub minimum wage. Many of us forget, those of us who are blessed to go out and have a meal every now and then, that most of the people who serve us in those restaurants are only making about $2 and some change. That is the federal sub minimum wage. There should not be a such thing as a sub minimum wage. So again, pretty words don't get us anywhere. We need some pretty actions in this country. The State of the Union is important, but it's the state of the streets that matter more. And so as we have economists saying that the economy is buzzing and is doing better and President Biden has delivered, that is not what your neighbor and my neighbor and us, that's not how we measure the economy. We measure the economy by how much our money can buy. How far can we stretch our dollar? Our state of the streets is about whether or not we can go to the grocery store and afford food, whether we can afford our necessities. That's the state of the streets. And so the state of the streets is not good, even though he's going to be bragging tomorrow about all that he has done, and he's going to blame the Republicans. Well, I got to tell you, Juan and Chris, I'm young enough to remember him being in full control, or at least the Democrats being in full control of that Congress for the first 2 years of his administration. So I don't want to hear it.
Right. No, I think now, so everything, the election yesterday, the uncommitted vote, I see that's going on across the country. There's like an active campaign to vote uncommitted. Are we over the lesser evil argument at this point? I know it's a primary. But we have this friend, we won't drop her name, but she's Muslim. And last year before October 7th, I would talk about Trump and Biden, and I would tell her back then, like, Trump's gonna win. I just see it. Like Biden's going down the drain. And then October 7th happened. She used to tell me, "No, Juan, but you don't understand how it was when Trump won. It was traumatizing to my community." And so I understood that. October 7th happened, and then she's like, "I don't give a fuck what happens. My community is over it. We actually don't care anymore." So do you think we're over the lesser evils argument at this point?
I think many Americans are when it comes to the slaughter that's happening in the Gaza, the genocide at the hands of a right wing Netanyahu ran government. The American people from all political spectrums are really crystal clear at this particular moment that they believe that Israel is committing a genocide. Big ups to South Africa for taking it to the international court
Right.
to put Israel out there internationally and let it be known that they are committing a genocide. But back here at home, I'm really proud that the American people have come to that conclusion on their own because they see the slaughter. Over 30,000 people that we can report are dead. We know that half of those are, or almost half, are children. We know that people are living in famine, that the right wing Netanyahu government is blocking food and aid, and even some Israeli civilians are helping and blocking that aid. It is against international law. It is against our laws and rules right here in the United States of America. And it's immoral as hell to have that kind of suffering happen. And it's happening in our name. It's our bombs and it's our money. This Congress in November just gave like $109 billion to Israel and Ukraine together. But we can't find the money to have universal health care, can't find the money, and the intestinal fortitude to make sure that we have paid child care in this country. And the list goes on and on and on. There's something wrong with that. Charity starts at home and spreads abroad. And so what happens over in Gaza, what happens in the Congo where they're enduring genocide as well, what happens over there happens over here. They don't give a damn about the kids here. So they ain't gonna give a damn about the kids in Gaza. They don't care about crumbling infrastructure in the hoods. So they not gonna care about the infrastructure that has been destroyed. 80% of it has been destroyed by the Israeli military over there. They don't care about our health over here in terms of having universal health care. So they don't care about the hospitals that have been bombed and destroyed and people getting operations without anesthesia and mothers birthing babies in the world that in some cases take their first and last breath under bombs. They don't give a damn about the kids over here. So they really don't give a damn about the kids over there. I'm telling you, Chris and Juan, it is a mirror reflection. So yes, people are waking up and they are sick and tired of the lesser of the two evils. And the uncommit vote is really showing that. And big ups to listen to Michigan, where they got this party started less than 21 days. They did that thing, have earned, I think, almost 2 delegates. We rolled into just this past Tuesday for Super Tuesday. Minnesota did that thing. They didn't even have a week worth of time to organize. And we're about to roll into the next set of states. And so we got our eye on Washington State and also our eye on Wisconsin, where I think that a big message is going to be sent to the Biden administration, or continue to be sent to the Biden administration and to the Biden campaign. That not on our watch are we going to sit idly by. And I too, Juan and Chris, have talked. I mean, I was just in Dearborn a couple of weeks ago. I was with Congresswoman Tlaib at a ceasefire event, and I got the same message that many of our Arab American sisters and brothers, family and friends are saying they don't give a damn about how the chips fall in November. We understand that Trump is a neo-fascist, and I often say neo-fascism kills you quick, neoliberalism kills you slow. We get it. But right now, the president of the United States is Joseph R. Biden, and he is complicit in the genocide that is happening in the Gaza because it's our bombs and it's our money.
It's different now. What I see that's going on. People are just fed up and tired. Like we always say, we should start like a labor party. We should start something outside of the two-party
Of
system,
course.
and maybe not to win, but to scare them. Maybe and to organize around it. Maybe to show them that we shouldn't have our undying support to the Democrats anymore as labor. We're our own thing going on here in San Diego, in the country. Look at, like I said, look at UAW, Sean Fain, the Teamsters, Sarah Nelson. They they get phone calls from these politicians all the time. Like they need their endorsements. We don't need these politicians like we used to, I feel, back then. Labor. Now
Yeah.
the tables have turned is that they need us more than we need them now. Like these politicians need the working class, the workers to
Yeah.
win.
I mean, we gotta have them because once we get in the streets, we need somebody to be able to push policy. They go hand in hand, but
Right.
we shouldn't kowtow the politicians.
Hmm.
We don't serve them. They serve us, and we got to get back to that. We got to force them to do. I mean, that's what's so beautiful about what Sean Fain did, as you and Chris probably remember. The UAW would not endorse
Yeah.
they didn't endorse at first. They made Biden come to them and hear their demands, and so we got to start making more demands. And Chris, when you were talking, it made me think. I was trying to look up this Asa Philip Randolph quote that I love so much that I need to memorize. I don't have it memorized yet. But Asa Philip Randolph was one of the greatest unionists of the 20th century. He uh, he he really fought back against racism and anti-blackness within the labor movement itself, and he's the founder of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, which was the black railroad workers, the black men railroad workers. And this is the quote right here that I think gets at the heart of what you just said, Juan. He said, patriotism has no appeal to us, justice has. Party has no weight with us, principle has. Loyalty is meaningless. It depends on what one is loyal to. That's it. That's it, and that's all. And we can get working class people from all backgrounds to just take this as our foundation. Patriotism don't matter. Party doesn't matter. Loyalty is useless. It depends on what you are loyal to. And so we need elected leaders who are loyal to the masses of the people who are suffering in this country and not their owner donors. And I don't care whether they're Democrat or Republican or no party. We need folks who are going to center the pain of the people in this country and who are willing to change material conditions and not answer to their owner donors. And we don't have that. And that is why the uncommit votes that will happen across this country is so important, because this is the voice of the people using democracy the way they should use it to get the attention of elected leaders, particularly the federal level, and say, we don't like what you're doing in our name, and we're not going to sit idly by and let you continue to do it. If we can do that with this uncommit, then we can do that with a whole bunch of stuff. Civil rights and social justice issues where we come together as a people. This is one of the, I mean, I see this as the reincarnation. And Chris, I would love to hear your point of this of the anti-war movement. I really do.
You know, I also remember you saying earlier, 90% of people are not in a union. 90%.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
that's a lot. And so when I explain unionism to people, I explain it into two categories. And I say the first categories are institutionalized unions, you know, negotiating contracts. It could be IATSE, it could be Unite Here, Teamsters. But the other side of the labor movement is we're not going to allow the billionaires or millionaires dictate our wages, our benefits, or our working conditions. We want to stay in the decision-making process. Amazon workers in Minnesota during COVID, you know, all the safety violations, they all just walked off the job. They just said that is the labor movement. And we are not going to be able to do this just 10% of the population. It's, you know, letting people know we don't have to take this anymore. The billionaires and millionaires, we're not going to let them dictate our wages, our benefits, or our working conditions. You know, we are going to, we're going to take a stand. And I thought that was a beautiful quote. I'm going to have to memorize that also, because I think it gets down. I think sometimes people think the union as a service sometimes, and it's not. The union's inside of you. The labor movement's inside of you. It's what you do about it. And, you know, it's something that we can all just, if everyone just said, hey, you know what? Let's just all walk outside till we get health care. It would happen. It would happen. Yeah. It just has to, it's the will. And I think right now with the uncommitted vote, the will, the people fighting for contracts, the will. So anyway,
it's there.
I don't know. Well, you just shocked me into talking about this, but I'm glad you're on.
No,
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm on too, and I really appreciate you both and how you're using your platform to lift up the labor movement and really to be of encouragement to people. And that's what I really try to do with the platform that the creator has blessed me with. I am a servant. I do come from a tradition that says that he or she who is greatest among you shall be the servant. And we do need many more servant leaders, not just in elected spaces, but in all spaces, whether it's union spaces, anywhere where somebody has power. We need them to be servant leaders and to want for you and your family what they want for them and their families. And if we did that, my God, not only would this country be a better place, the world would be a better place too. So it was so great to join you, Juan and Chris. Hopefully I can come back. And I do want people to go and visit my new organization, We Are Somebody, a capacity builder organization for working class people, both unionized and non-unionized. And they can catch us at wearesomebody.org. That is wearesomebody.org.
Hey, Nina, real quick, can I get you to give a shout out to my encore workers? I'm telling you, we're gonna fight Goliath this next month. We're gonna go hard on this campaign, and they're gonna need everything in their backs to take on Goliath, Blackstone, essentially. So, can you give like a quick shout out to the encore workers in San Diego, and so I can clip this and show it to them to show them that, dude, this campaign is no longer just San Diego. We got the world
Yeah.
watching and they have your
Well,
back.
hello, my sisters and brothers and family and friends in Encore. I want you to know that your work is appreciated. People could not get their message out without the AV workers hooking it up and making it happen. I know you might not hear this on a regular basis, but what you do matters. I hope that you all continue to stand up in solidarity and fight for better wages, better work conditions, and better benefits. You are not asking for more than you deserve. You deserve these things. You deserve nice things. You deserve to be able to provide for your family. You deserve to live a good life. And after all, you're helping other folks. Without you, people wouldn't be able to get their message out. So you are a fundamental, you are a foundational ingredient for people to be able to set up, whether it's weddings or conventions. It is because of you that things pop. And so you deserve better than what you are getting now. So whatever happens when you do finally get into contract negotiations, I hope that you all will stay solid and stand strong. Labor makes the world go round, baby, and you are a part of that. So I want you to keep the faith and I want you to keep the fight. And no matter what, do not get weary in well doing.
Wow, you should run for president.
Hopefully that helps. I was just going off the cuff here. Why you need
that was awesome. No, thank you very much, Nina. I really appreciate you jumping on. I appreciate what you're doing out there with your new org, your new podcast. I think
Thank
you're
you.
right. We need more people out there speaking truth to power. And that's what we're trying to do. We're not that big, but we're still the little engine that could kind of deal. So we're the only podcast in
Amen.
San Diego doing this. So we're something. So I appreciate you. And hopefully we can have you on eventually again sometime.
All right, looking forward to it. I hope you both have a good night.
Good night.
Thank
Have
you
a good
so
night.
much, Nina.
Bye.
Bye bye.